The way I got hooked on the Yale Russian Chorus is that this senior that I used to know when I was a freshman, he was in the Yale Russian Chorus and he said, "You got to show up." And I came in late and they were singing the beginning of Tebie Poyem by Tchaikovsky. And it just starts with C major, G major, D minor, A minor. It's very simple. And it was so powerful. It just completely changed the way I thought about music. I remember thinking, that's what I want my music to do. Of course, how do you get there?
They were rehearsing far from Central Campus in a room with terrible acoustics. I remember very distinctly walking out of the rehearsal and into the street that was kind of damp after the rain and thinking, this is what I need. This is my home.
The Russian chorus is a strange phenomenon. Here are a bunch of Americans singing Russian songs and going off around the world. And it's a mixture of fraternity, singing group, sort of cultural ambassadors, things like that. People have said, that the Russian chorus was part of a contributing factor to the resolution of the Cold War. Now with this Ukrainian war, everything is turned upside down. The political confrontations continue. But somehow the Russian chorus still sings.
"2022 is a really important year for the chorus. We were planning a tour to Russia, and the war broke out. It really made us revisit why and articulate why we do what we do and what is the nature of what we sing. What is the nature of the chorus? It wasn't really clear, whether the chorus would even survive in its current form because we had lost a year of members because of COVID.
Basses, baritones, tenor.
Russian chorus members have a variety of interests, have a variety of career paths, and some of them are doing this with no singing experience to start with, but just happen to have good voices that we bring together. Some people are interested in Eastern Europe, some people not really at all when they come to the chorus. Some people are just there because they like the sound.
I majored in English and then was active in a number of musical organizations. At the time, I saw myself more as a trombone player.
I do not sight read. I now can kind of sight read sheet music, but back then I certainly couldn't.
I just overheard somebody talking about the chorus in a dining hall, and I was like, well, okay, I'll go try out, sure.
I was a little bit intimidated to start with the application process of auditioning for the Yale Russian Chorus, particularly because I'd never sung before in my life.
It was pretty accidental. So I actually auditioned and was admitted and joined before I had ever heard the chorus.
I remember in high school, in the early 70s, there was an a cappella men's group that came and visited and gave a concert at our high school. It was named the Yale Russian Chorus. And I actually remember one of the songs that they sang. Blažemus, Alleluia. Idzie na sowiet nieczestiwych.
Where's the ball? Where's the ball? He never fetches. As Russian immigrant, Russian music is this connection to home for me. I'm very happy where I am now. However, it's very hard to be far from your roots. So every time when I have an opportunity and ability to show and represent my homeland, I'm grabbing this opportunity because it's in my core. My dad told me that I started singing before I started talking, and we tried all kinds of singing. It was folk singing, it was jazz singing, it was pop singing, it was rap. However, I never truly could find the way to express myself in any of those genres. And my dad came to me, he was like, "Do you want to try classical singing?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And I tried it, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's the way."
And when I was 4, I went with my mother to see the ballet by Tchaikovsky, and I saw a harp in the orchestra. It's my life, it's my happiness. I can't live without music. Even one day not playing a harp, it's very challenging for me. Yeah. At Juilliard, there are not a lot of Russian musicians, Russian students, unfortunately, and I miss my home a lot. When I got this concert, I realized it's such a great opportunity for me to really have like memories of my homeland and to share with people what is my culture. And playing Russian music is so much easier for me than other styles of music, like French or German or even American music, because it's something I was born in and something I can understand very easily. I just know how to play it. I don't know how to explain it.
So if we go again immediately to something very lyrical, it'd be a bit too much. So let's talk about the second half. We start with harp, then Paiduli, then first Taneyev, then Tony Ветер. The idea of this project is to invite Russian musicians that are currently based in US and work with a collective that is an American collective, but the specifics of the collective is Russian music. And another very important element of this collective is that it's an a cappella choir, a cappella collective, so they don't really work with instruments.
The entire process for the Trinity concert was relatively short notice. It was within 3 weeks that we were having to put this together. Working with Leo was kind of looking at connections in not just thematically, but motifs and background. And it was it's very experimental. It's very much trying to blend together traditions that in Russian music, especially in liturgical music, tend not to be blended.
The entire Russian music is sort of, in a way, built on these two primary elements, Orthodox Church and folk music. And so this is basically the dialogue we're trying to create in between the genres.
When we're talking about the differences between Russian and European music, the idea is the same. It's the church music meets folklore, and then they kind of merge. However, in Russian Orthodox tradition, the use of instruments was strictly prohibited, since it was considered to be something from, Satan.
There's always been an antagonism, sometimes stronger, sometimes weaker, between folk music and classical music. And what the Yale Russian Chorus sort of did is collapsed that boundary. The way that it was actually done by the Don Cossack Choir, by some of the really interesting singing groups in the late imperial period that had a folk sound but sang classical music and church music, but in a way that it really sounds kind of raw and rough, by people who might be good singers, but they don't really read music, so they're learning by ear. And that sound is actually very rare.
The chorus started off basically as a group of people who were interested in Russian things, European culture in general in a way, and in singing this music. Denis started the chorus in '53. He had recently emigrated through Poland and then Austria, and then he got admitted to the Yale Music School as a pianist. So he was a serious musician, and he knew his Russian, and he was raised in a very musical family in Latvia. The chorus started as an outshoot of the Yale Russian Club, which had been a fairly staid university student club that invited speakers in who would talk about the economy or political science or Dostoevsky or things like that. But one time they brought in Denis to talk about singing, and Denis brought some music and some vodka. Charisma has a lot of appeal, when you're looking for, as a young person, looking for direction, looking for who could you model your life on? Dennis provided a lot of that. And it became a kind of fraternity.
We're one continuous group. We're one continuous tradition. Yes, every year it changes a little bit, and yes, every year it has different directions, but fundamentally it's a core, same tradition. Its mission is living, a tradition rather than just kind of understanding it. I think that actually is at the core of what the chorus is about.
Tradition is about the essence of what it means to be performing, to be making art, to be saying prayer. Depends on what kind of tradition we're talking about. We always should think about what is the essence of what we're doing.
All right, why don't we just do the boo-boo-boo, just baritones right now, just to get the sound nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, and. Tradition is that without referring to the reality we exist in right now. And so we decided to have a piece, a contemporary arrangement that was actually specifically commissioned for this concert of the Kukushechka, which is actually sort of a combination of a folk song and an Orthodox song.
American singing groups tend usually to go by the book, you sing what's on the page. Dennis said, it's on the page, but you have to think what it is you're trying to convey. He believed that what we have to do as a chorus is sing the music authentically. And we didn't really know ourselves what authentic was. He was our only source of authentic, right? It's beyond the notes, we have to create an atmosphere so that people, the audience, get some idea of what it is to live a Russian, experience.
Tradition is about keeping the essence. It's not about technical repetition, because technical repetition does not bring anything rather than make you do a physical workout.
When I was in the chorus, there was a group that we sort of characterized as the shirt rippers, meaning they were the ones who go for emotion, and then there were the more academic sorts. So there was a tension between them and some of the earlier members who felt that we were getting too academic.
The opposing point of view in this conflict rests on a fundamentally different vision of man. In this system, the value of individual man diminishes sharply, and the state is all important. The state will run his life for him, his political life, his business life, his social life.
Being part of the chorus was always would kind of require a double take, because I mean back in the Soviet era, you know, people would think, well, okay, are you a communist? Is that why you're singing this stuff?
These are the contrasting points of view between the major antagonists in the conflict which has become known over the last decade as the Cold War.
We were all afraid of war. The modern war was so catastrophic with all those nuclear rockets and bombers and so on that we knew that would be the end of civilization. One of the reasons that some of us, at least, were studying Russian was to try to get a better picture of what's really going on, you know, and that's why these tours and so on were very important for us. This is the student club in Leningrad. Gregory Burnside, Russian Chorus of Yale University under Gregory Burnside. This goes back to 1984. This is another concert from the 2004 tour in Petersburg, where we sang in a small palace there along the river. Here's a German concert in Erlangen in Germany. So it's not a very picturesque thing, but we sing, there it mentions we sing Negro spirituals, right? So this is the first group to go to Russia in 1958. Dennis is here on the left, and he's looking very chipper. And one of the things we wanted to do was to present a human face of America to Russians, and coming back, present the human face of Russia to Americans, right? We were the only chance that these people had to talk with someone from the West. And for many cases, we were the first Americans they'd ever seen. The first 3 years, 58, 59, 60, we went as tourists. We did not go as official performers. We did not go as a performing group. So we sang these spontaneous, informal concerts in squares or wherever we were, on the beach or in a park. And there would be immense crowds that would be attracted, and we would talk. And then by 1960, where the Soviets were a little bit onto our game, a number of the people we had talked to just disappeared. One person we asked about it said, well, he's had a little bit of trouble with the police. And we realized, okay, these guys are playing hardball.
Probably about 2015 or 16, I started working on what we call a short history of the chorus. When I started researching it and I found out how closely connected the chorus was to so many Cold War landmark dates, they were in the spots where history was being made.
On the 62 tour, the chorus ended up in Berlin. The day before we arrived, 2 Germans tried to get over the wall near Checkpoint Charlie, and the first one makes it, but the second one stumbles on top of the wall and gets shot by the East German Guards.
The chorus was asked by Mayor Willy Brandt to come and sing at the Berlin Wall just days after this man was shot.
So Dennis went to a bookstore, a music store, and got a hold of Mozart's Ave Verum. And the copy that he got was in German, not in Latin. And they went to the wall, and there was a microphone and a few flowers. And right behind it was the ruin of a building with guards inside and machine guns. He said, it's the first time I ever sang with a machine gun pointed at my neck.
That image is what we're all about. That image explains everything. The wall, the music, but the music can be heard on the other side of the wall.
That's what music does. It just, it bridges the animosities between people.
Whether you're Russian, whether you're Georgian, Japanese, you know, the music can speak to you, even if you don't understand the language.
It's great to be able to just come into a place and instantly connect with the people, you know, whether they're retirees in Florida, whether it's a Korean church in San Francisco. We will often perform for audiences of Eastern European immigrants in the United States or Russian immigrants in the United States, and that will often move them to just suddenly have that little point of access to their former lives.
They express a lot of gratitude for that we have kept this thing alive, you know, while there was this period of estrangement.
The moment when I realized the power of our music was when we took it on the road and took it to the emigre communities. I remember in a particular church concert conducting, and of course I conducted with my back to the audience, but I could see in the eyes of the people I was conducting, in the eyes of the chorus, this intensity and this just connection to the music that I hadn't grasped before. You know, and then I turned around at the end of the concert, and the whole front row was sobbing.
It's like right between the eyes for them, because it's so relevant. And I think one of the great tragedies now is it's becoming relevant again in a kind of different way, that a lot of people who love their country and want to be home in their country don't feel that they can be home in their country.
Our general sentiment was hoping that, okay, they would go into peace talks, they would pull out, this would end.
So we just decided, let's hold off on pretty much doing anything.
There was like a week there where we were having meetings every day into the long hours of the night being like, oh, what's the chorus gonna do now?
There was some discussion actually of changing the name of the chorus. There were people in the chorus and in the alumni who felt quite strongly we needed to change, and people who absolutely rejected that as a possibility.
A couple people left the chorus. Some people did officially, some people just stopped doing it temporarily, or their involvement was cut back a lot. Some people didn't necessarily want to perform with us, but still wanted to come to rehearsals.
I know there are a few like opinion pieces published in the Yale Daily News being like that the chorus they're supporting Russia by doing this, and they should not, they should stop singing.
if groups like this did not exist, I think the world would be kind of a very sad place if we stopped wanting to interact with other cultures and other people purely because of the current political climate or historical events. Because those are obviously always changing, but I think music is something that remains constant throughout the ages.
If it's not when relations are difficult, when Russia's at war, what would the purpose of this choir be? It's really important when there is tension to show that there's also a way out. There's a way of having dialogues, even if that's just through music.
I think Russian music is one of the more, it seems like it's one of the most approachable music traditions in the world. Music by Tchaikovsky, music by Rachmaninoff, or even music by Stravinsky or Prokofiev, in a lot of cases seems to be very universal, and people seem to understand it despite disagreements and political agenda.
When we meet one another, citizen to citizen, we embrace each other. We're welcomed with open arms, and we don't really have a political message. We have a cultural message and a message of brotherhood and sisterhood.
That's why I love art so much, is because every time I'm being asked about politics, I'm like, I don't know. I'm an arts. It's above. It was created to unite people. It was created to uplift, to open something deeper in people.
This feeling when you give your emotions and energy to public and then you get a feedback from them, you understand that what you're doing is actually really, really great. That's what motivates me a lot, and that's why I'm still playing music.
It's sort of cliche to talk about the power of music. It's for real. It's not a joke. It has that. So, I'm sorry.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, everyone around the world who joined this great screening. I encourage you to write in the chat on the live stream where you are, where you listen, and we'd love to hear from you. So, Harold, what do you think of that film?
I was very impressed, both as film and the story is very moving. So that I think Ben Stamper and Chris did a great job, and I have to express my appreciation to the Center for Cultural Engagement and to the American Center in Moscow for getting this done, for creating this work. We happened to be the subject this time, but they do other things as well that are very valuable in a big effort to keep the doors open, even though there is hostility in the world, right? And we have always tried to do our bit in that regard. We tried to present the human face of America to Russians when we went, and the human face of Russia to Americans when we came back, to at least so that people would know that there's no need to be hostile or antagonistic. There are greater truths than the current political realities.
And I think it's really important to note, as Gabe Mesa commented in the film, the Russian chorus still sings, and I want the audience to be aware that actually we just returned from international tour to Georgia and Armenia. So in spite of the current political situation, our mission of cultural exchange continues, and we are very happy to bring our music to audiences around the world, just as we did since the early years of the chorus. I'll tell you one thing that really struck me, and I have to say, I've seen this film a few times, and I can't stop listening to it because the music is just so beautiful. And of course, it was presented very well. But you can see here why it is that why music in general, and this music in particular, helps to remove barriers between people, to build bridges between musicians and the audience. And I think this film is a very good illustration of that.
I think, as you had said before, the spring 2024 concert at Trinity Church in New Haven was a big piece of this film, and it was an innovation, an experiment on the chorus's part. We sing a cappella, and yet we were able to put together a concert working with instrumentalists, even at the same time. That is, they were playing while we sang. Admittedly, not the songs we usually sing, but this, for instance, this piece, Kukushechka, which was arranged by Olga Shaidulina for this concert, involving the chorus, piano, a soprano soloist, and the harp. So we have learned a lot by doing this and how to bring various traditions together.
Yeah. And, the film makes clear that this was such a great cross-cultural collaboration. I really enjoyed when I was there at that concert, meeting and working with Leo, the pianist, and Elisabetta and the musicians. And we put together something that built on our musical tradition. Our program included a lot of the music that we've performed in the past. But as you said, it also included a brand new composition. So the tradition is not static; it continues to develop and evolve. And I think this is an illustration of that.
But, well, one of the problems that comes up in the discussion in the film is authenticity. That is, Dennis Mickiewicz, our founding conductor, said we have to sing in an authentic manner, an authentic way. And of course, while he was with us up until 1967, roughly, we had him as a source of authenticity. But then he moved on to other universities and started getting a job as professor and things like that, which is natural and happens in universities, that students finish their studies and go on. And could the chorus continue? And this was required a lot of effort and soul searching to figure out how we would continue. But we managed to find every time a singer who had exceptional musical ability and either knew Russian music well already or listened to Russian recordings to become more experienced and knowledgeable about the Russian choral tradition. So there's been that struggle the whole time. From 67 on, to sound a little as much as possible like Russians, not sound like Americans making an effort to sing Russian songs.
I think in some ways, yeah, please go ahead, Harold.
Well, there are a lot of singing groups at Yale University, but the Russian chorus is very unique and requires some explanation, and I think the film provides some of that explanation. The origins with the Russian club, with Dennis coming along, and then the success of the initial tours and things like that, which made the Russian chorus a very interesting group for other singers at the university. And we were able to expand in size and repertoire. And then we became a group that somehow survived now almost 75 years. Now, one of the things that Russians find, I think, a little bit strange is the alumni phenomenon. Because European university students typically have very little affection for their old school. They move on to their careers. Whereas in the American tradition, we talk about the so-called alma mater, the mother's soul, the soul mother that raised us, that educated us, and so on. So part of the reason the alumni, there is a tradition of alumni coming back to the university to recreate the old times, right? And the chorus at Yale has always benefited from the vocal strength and the experience that the alumni bring to concerts.
Yes, and I think part of it also is the unique nature of this singing group. I don't know about you, Harold, but I don't regard myself as just a singer. I regard myself as a cultural ambassador as part of this group. And we call ourselves diplomats of song that engage with people in other countries. And so we're not just going back to the university, we're continuing to offer this music to audiences around the world. I think that's what keeps me very much involved in it.
I see from the chat that we have a question about how the film was created. I'm afraid I have very little to contribute there. I can say that Ben Stamper and his sound man, Chris, came to my house and did some filming there, so which you saw in my living room. And he interviewed a lot of people. He got a lot of soundtracks from recordings and from the archives, photo archives that we have kept. Now, I think one of the really interesting things I found in the filming is the way Ben was able to present a song continuously with various generations of singers, singing. So he would do the 70s group, and then the same song in the same place, an 80s group, and that was, I think, extraordinary, the way he was able to mix and merge the soundtracks, and so this came up in Tibi Poem, it came up in Paiduli, and I thought that was a really phenomenal bit of editing or conception.
So I was there at the filming, and I helped Ben out in assembling the media for this. I think so this all happened in the spring of 2024, and it actually happened very quickly. The original plan was to host a Russian musical group from Russia to have a joint concert, but at the last minute, the Russians couldn't get visas to come into the country, so they had to quickly put together a different concert plan with different musicians, and remarkably, in just a few weeks, it came together quite nicely. And yeah, it was great how Ben was able to weave in video archival material, other stuff that we had provided to them into a coherent narrative.
It was also interesting to try to get some feel for these three Russian musicians who are in New York City now. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure exactly how permanently they are or wish this to be in New York City, but all of them, well, certainly the soprano and the harpist expressed the difficulty of being in exile, as it were, in emigration, away from your roots. I thought that was very touching, and I think it's a fairly common phenomenon in Russian emigres that there's something essential that they miss. To some extent, we saw that in the reaction of emigre audiences who were very moved by our performances. And Stepan Sveshnikov says that even some of them were weeping, were crying, and so on, because it was so moving to hear the old songs. And that's interesting that for initially, up until 89 or so, we were keeping songs alive, performing songs that weren't being performed in Russia. Either they were too religious or they weren't socialist, realist enough. They didn't promote communist ideology or whatever it was, but our songs didn't do any of that. We picked from the old 19th century and to some extent early 20th century tradition. But then after 89, when the communist government fell and a new government was painfully put together, it became possible for Russians to sing anything they wanted. Now, that meant that we no longer had an exclusive right, or whatever it is, practice of singing these songs. They began to be sung everywhere. So we were not so unique anymore, which took a little bit of effort for us to get used to. We were unique in the United States, but we weren't so unique in Russia and Europe.
Ironically, though, Harold, we retain a degree of uniqueness. I think as some of the people on watching this know, I direct our social media channels around the world. And I see a lot of comments from Russians saying that they don't hear so much the music that the Yale Russian Chorus sings. And they don't hear it sung the way it is sung. Now, there are exceptions. For example, the Sretensky Monastery Choir retains that tradition, and we're flattered when we are compared with them. But it is there are not as many singing groups nowadays who focus on this traditional music, I would say, Harold.
I think you're right. I mean, rock and roll and all that stuff have swamped Russian audiences as well, and and some of the comments that you were talking about complain about that the airwaves in Russia are now just they broadcast or concerts are presented. They're all this music that older generations just can't appreciate.
I think it's also important to understand the role that we have played and continue to play in bringing this music back to the United States. So I'll give you an example. For a couple of years, I directed a church choir in California, and I actually included music from the Russian Orthodox and other Orthodox traditions into our worship, and people were very appreciative of this music that they very rarely hear. So we play a role, I think, of raising awareness of these musical traditions in the United States. Otherwise, people don't get exposed to much at all.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I see there's another question in the chat. What initially inspired you to join the Yale Russian Chorus?
Harold, do you want to take that first?
Okay. Well, I joined the chorus in 1959. The chorus, my main field at the university was Russian language, Russian studies, history, literature, economy, and so on. So I was very much interested in anything Russian. And I heard a concert by the Yale Russian Chorus and thought, although I'm not really a singer, I thought, well, that would be great to join up with these guys. And the fact that they had just returned, this was 1959, from their first tour, summer tour to the USSR, was an additional attraction, because this might mean that I might be able to go to the USSR and see for myself what all that's about. Now, there were very few tours, very few tourist exchanges between Russia and the United States up until January 1958, when an agreement was signed between Mr. Lacey and Mr. Zarubin on the exchange of tourist groups and academic exchanges and things like that. So, because up until that time, we in the United States had looked at Russia, as it were, through a telescope. We were very far away, and a telescope shrinks your field of view, and it also distorts perspective. So it was very important, once the agreement was signed, for people to get over there and see what's really going on. The press here, as it was in Russia, in the Soviet Union, was pretty hostile. And there was a lot of animosity, hostility, and suspicion, and so on. So it was important to go over there personally and see what happened. And I was able to go to the USSR in the summer of 1960, which was a very interesting year to be there because the U-2 incident had just happened, and there was going to be the trial of Gary, whatever his name was, in Moscow, and we were assured by Russian people that the trial would be very gentle with the guy, even though he had spied on the USSR and so. So it was very much that, and that drew me in, and interested in Russian affairs. And in fact, when I auditioned for the Yale Russian Chorus, I failed my audition. And Dennis then contacted me and said, you know, there are enough of you who sing pretty well, but not sort of top notch. We're going to form a second level chorus, second string chorus, right? Sort of a junior varsity group. So I was in that group. There were 12 of us, and I started singing there before the summer tour. And we gave ourselves the name Mensheviki, which made the big chorus the Bolsheviki, right? They didn't like that. Anyway, that's the story of how I got into the chorus.
So actually, my voice teacher recommended that I check out the chorus. So my background, at Yale, I was a graduate student in computer science, but I also had training as a singer. I continue to sing, and my voice teacher recommended that I check it out because some of his other students were in the chorus, and I was very attracted by the sound. The Yale Russian Chorus had a sound which I thought was unique, and as a men's chorus, and you hear this in some of the old recordings, that in some respects it's very Russian, and in other respects it's very Yale. It has an American flavor to it, and I just was fascinated by all of this great repertoire, which otherwise people have had very little exposure to in the United States. And I did join the tour in 1984. We did sing at the Berlin Wall. It was not as eventful a time as when Fechte was killed, but we were had the feeling of being on the front line, being cultural ambassadors, and I found that to be very. It felt very important then, and it feels very important now.
Yeah, I think Gabriel Mesa made a very good point at the end of the movie, where it is now, in particular, during these times of tension, that something like cultural diplomacy be strengthened or be wanted. So we had in the chorus this question, this self-doubting, whether we could present, whether we should present Russian music as such. And fortunately, we persisted in keeping our repertoire and keeping our name. And we had to overcome a certain amount of feeling on our side about that. And but we persisted, and as the film pointed out in the beginning, there was a lot of tension and so on, but the Russian chorus continued to sing.
Yeah, in spite of everything that goes on, and I have to say, and I know some of our audience in Russia has a similar way, which is that certainly this took place in the context of the war, and the war continues to affect us and impede our ability to carry out our mission. I think there was more war footage in this film than I would have liked. I guess that concerns me, because we're all about bridging barriers, and unfortunately, war confrontation is contrary to that. I look forward to the day when the war is finally over and we can actually reconnect with in person with audiences in Russia.
Louis, there's a new question up, which I think you are uniquely positioned to answer.
Yes, absolutely. So the reason why we went to Georgia and Armenia is because, right now it's difficult to tour in Russia, but we knew that a lot of Russians emigrated to Georgia and Armenia, and a lot of people, with Russian background are there. So we thought that would be a good place to go to really get an understanding of what's going on there. And I would say that we got, when we are, I think it's important to understand that our repertoire is inclusive. We do not sing exclusively Russian music. So in Georgia and Armenia, we did sing Russian music, but we also sang, of course, Georgian and Armenian music, Ukrainian, Latvian, and American. And we got some good reception for the Russian repertoire, particularly in Armenia, I would say. I think Armenia and Russia are fairly close, and a lot of people go back and forth. But they really responded when we perform music in their own language. So and that's part of the cultural exchange, to connect with people, to show appreciation for their culture, as well as bringing the culture of Russia and America to those audiences. So I hope that answers the question.
I think one of the very unusual aspects of the Russian chorus is that we have taken the effort to memorize a whole lot of music in a language that is not our own. We have gone that extra mile. We have made that extra effort to show our appreciation of Russian music, Georgian music, Armenian music, and so on. And we sometimes ask people from Russia, Armenia, so do you think that an American chorus could be formed in your country to sort of complement ours? And the answer is usually pretty evasive. They don't really want to have to answer that question. So we have yet to find out.
But in fairness, the Russian chorus is pretty unusual in the United States too, right?
Yeah, very much so. But I think it's interesting that a number of us are singers, and a number of us are accidental singers. That is, we hadn't really thought of ourselves as singers, but we somehow learned something in the Russian chorus. The business of learning, that is, learning enough of another culture's culture to present it, to show that we appreciate it, to show that we value it, so that Russians often are worried about Russophobia, about that the West underappreciates or deprecates Russia and Russian culture, and we have dedicated ourselves to proving that that's not the case, at least not at Yale University. And just in 2003, I guess, when we had our 50th anniversary concert, the university put on a big exhibition and series of lectures on the 250th anniversary of Petersburg. So we try, Yale University and we try to be sure that Russian culture, Russian history, and so on is visible and appreciated.
So, getting back to the reception of this music in Armenia and Georgia, actually, we posted on our YouTube channel. We'll continue to post videos from that tour, but one of them in particular, we sang Tebye Poyem in the Gehard Monastery in Armenia, and beautiful recording. And very well received. Again, the music speaks for itself. Whatever attitudes people might have melt away when they actually hear this music in person.
I think the Ben Snapper's film, interestingly starts with Tebye Poyem and ends with Tebye Poyem. So he has created a kind of an arch or an arc from a cycle. You know, we start off with Dan Godfrey talking about how simple and meaningful the chords are in Tebye Poyem, and then we end up with him conducting the same piece of music in Philadelphia, and I think it's a very nice closing of the film. It's very hard, I think, for a documentary, because a feature film, a regular film, has a storyline, and things happen to people. You meet the people, things happen, and then there is some change, and then the film ends. In a documentary, you don't know really how to end the film, and so you have to figure out an artistic arc. You know, we're going to begin with this beautiful, simple song and end with that same simple. And this is one of the things that Dennis stressed in rehearsing us, is that you want to sing to project some emotion. It's not just about beauty. Beauty, he says, follows after. When you figure out what it is you're trying to say and you sing that, then it would be authentic in an artistic sense, maybe not in an ethnic sense, but at least artistically. And the idea is to give your audience some idea of the Russian experience. We take them to a place they don't know well, and we wander around a bit in that music and that culture, and then take them back, right? And I think that is a good idea for a concert, is for this to be a meaningful journey. That we have gone, we're taking you to some place, you will learn some things and appreciate some things, and then you come back.
Yeah. So, question in the chat: how do the alumni and the current students learn from each other when you come together to perform? So, I think this recent tour is a good example. Of course, the students are all in New Haven, Connecticut, but the alumni are all over North America, around the world. So we use online video conferencing, Zoom, very extensively in preparing for concerts, and then we get together when we can. So, for example, in preparation for this last tour, the students were planning a tour during their spring break in the Washington, D.C. area. So we got the alumni who were going to go on tour together. And so we had an opportunity to practice together, which was very, very important. But even there, digital media is very important. We recorded those rehearsals and then we posted them online so that the people who couldn't attend in person could view and learn. So that's part of it. And then, of course, when we actually get together, such as on tour, that's extremely important. So, we had an opportunity to collaborate. The student conductor in New Haven had an opportunity to conduct the whole group, and that was really a great opportunity to learn together. I think that's one reason, and also these other, even in the United States, when the chorus goes on tour, alumni in the area try to join and participate. So there is this ongoing learning together wherever we have an opportunity to do so.
A little bit different. You may know there's a Latin saying, ars longa vita brevis. Art is long and life is short. And it was originally phrased to show that human beings are temporary, but art is eternal. But suppose you turn that saying around and you say that life is long, but art is short, meaning that we live a long time. And for most of us, the period where art is a big part of our lives is rather short. And the chorus has provided a way, an antidote, a way of making that period of art longer for each of us. Because we get to make music. Even I'm 85, and I have, since I joined the chorus, I have been part of some musical stuff, for years. And it has allowed me to participate in the creation of art, for which I'm very grateful. And I really have to thank Dennis and the original founders for having created such an instrument for our lives, for our development, for creating a more satisfying experience in life, and I think that's one of the reasons that alumni come back and want to sing some more, because they want to extend that period of art in their lives, right? It was a very meaningful portion of their lives when they were at Yale, and they're sorry to see it disappear, which it won't if they just keep on coming back.
Yeah, let me pile on to what you said, Harold. I believe that music can help keep you young. And I think this chorus is an illustration of it, that people can continue to make music throughout their lives if they have an opportunity to do it, and music helps to maintain that youthful perspective. I think that's very important. And we've got a lot of great comments. Very good. Well, thank you everyone who attended. This was a lot of fun. And I encourage you to visit our YouTube and VK channels, where you can hear more recordings of our chorus and learn a bit more of the history. So, and it's a pleasure to talk with you, Harold, as always. Thank you for participating in this.
Igualmente. Okay. Well, it was fun seeing the film again, which is a delightful film, and then talking with you, Louis, and having these Q&A, and getting questions from the audience, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep up the good work, as they say.
That's right. We got more singing to do.
We got more singing to do.
That's right. Okay, well, all right, we'll wrap up. Yeah, we can wrap up. Just one last comment. We are making plans for another tour in the Baltic states in 2027. And if conditions permit it, we may make a trip to St. Petersburg. So we might get a chance to see some of our Russian audience in person, God willing. So thank you everyone for attending. Yes, we can wrap up now.
Thank you. Большое спасибо.